Saskatchewan is accusing the Liberal government of picking a fight with India for domestic political gain. At issue for that province, trade talks. India is one of Saskatchewan's most important export markets, but Ottawa paused trade talks just days ahead of the G20 summit.
We were obviously deeply concerned to hear in the media last week about the negotiations being paused with no consultation, with no discussion with provinces. And obviously for Saskatchewan, this is a really significant thing, and we are very, very concerned about it.
Okay, we want to hear from the federal government now. Canada's Minister for International Trade, Mary Ng, joins me from London, Ontario. So Minister, let's start with that allegation from Saskatchewan. They say your government's picking a fight with the Indian government for domestic political gain and working against the economic interests of Canada. What's your response?
Well, David, very good to see you, but to the contrary. And in fact, I would say to my ministerial colleague, Minister Harrison, had he had an issue, he can call me because I'm available at any given time. And I'm happy to talk to him about it. But to the contrary, I mean, we've had 9 rounds of negotiations. And in those 9 rounds, provinces and territories have been kept up to date all the way throughout. And look, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing my colleague at the FPT that I'm having in Ottawa this Friday, a meeting we've been planning for months. It's my annual meeting, and this is the first time we're going to be able to do it in person. But look, trade talks are, they take time and they're complex. And I think that Canadians know and Canadian exporters know that the kind of deal that we want is always going to be a good deal for Canada. We want the best deal for Canada. And all we're doing right now is taking a bit of a pause so that we can, reflect and take stock. That's all this is.
Reflect and take stock? I mean, what is it you need to reflect and take stock on? Because we've seen some difficulties in the political relationship between your government and the Modi government. What's the big issue you need to consider at this point in this process?
Well, trade talks take time. There are a range of issues that get discussed throughout these negotiations. Like I said, we had 9 rounds, and it's really important that that we get the best deal for Canadians. And what we're doing right now is we're taking a reflection on that. But but to my ministerial colleague in Saskatchewan, I want to assure him that I, as the Trade Minister for Canada, works alongside with him and alongside with all of our colleagues across the country, because it is Team Canada. I just came back from a trip in the ASEAN in Indonesia and in Singapore, where Saskatchewan products, Saskatchewan wheat and potash and canola and pulses are really top quality and desired by the region. I would say that with respect to the ASEAN region, Saskatchewan saw a 91% increase in exports to those regions, which is why it's so important that the work that I do alongside my colleagues as Team Canada is to open up those markets for one purpose only, to create benefits for our exporters to get into those markets.
Minister Harrison said on the show yesterday, you said you can be reached at any time, that he's written letters, and Premier Moe has said essentially the same thing, that they never got a reply from you or your office. And given the stake for Saskatchewan in these particular trade talks, why wouldn't they have been read in and updated on where things are as they claim?
They've always been updated. It's our practice during negotiations to consult with and to update our colleagues, and they have been. At the officials do that at the trade level. We are my office has been in regular contact with Saskatchewan, particularly because we are very ambitious in getting out into the Indo-Pacific in particular with a number of trade missions. But the other thing is, I would say to Minister Harrison, I'm looking forward to seeing him on Friday, because we've got an FPT meeting. I'm looking forward to seeing him in person. We've been planning this for many months, and they know, and if they don't know, I guess I would say it to you, David, that I am reachable at any time to my colleagues, because I do think that Canadians want to see us keep doing this work together so that exporters are really benefiting. Saskatchewan was able to see record numbers of trade in places like Mexico, over $1 billion last year, record trade with the United States. And if I can plug a wonderful, female-owned business in Saskatchewan, in 3 Farmers that sells camelina oil, getting into those international markets. Indonesia, I was just there. I mean, right. They're the 4th largest, export market, and doing this work takes a Team Canada approach, and I am very much looking forward to continuing this important work with Minister Harrison and with the Saskatchewan government.
India is an absolutely enormous market, obviously, Minister, but the relationship there is incredibly complex and tense. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau suggested before the G20 that he wanted to raise the issue of foreign interference in a meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Did that happen? at the G20, and how is that affecting trade talks with India?
I think that being at the G20, I was just at the G20 in India I think about 10, 15 days ago myself, and attended the trade ministers G20 meeting in India. And you know, I think you've heard the Prime Minister say that it's really important that you know, G20 as a forum to talk about the range of issues that are really important to our economy in Canada, and the range of issues that's facing the globe today, whether it's climate or whether it is food security or insecurity. I mean, these are a range of issues that's really important for Canada to have their voice heard, and that's what the Prime Minister did at.
Did he raise foreign interference with Prime Minister Modi?
Well, I came back from the trip in Indonesia and in Singapore. So, you know, the Prime Minister went to G20 and did his work as the Prime Minister of Canada, advocating for Canada, being the important voice on that multilateral stage at G20.
Okay, so but is all of this, the foreign interference issue, the difficulty in the last trip to India and the issues during this trip to India, the referendums on a separate Sikh state that have been held in Canada over the past little while, is that affecting these trade talks? Are you seeing that as a political issue and an impediment to negotiating a trade agreement with India?
Well, when I started this, when I relaunched the trade talks, and I might remind sort of the audience that you know, Canada has been in trade discussions with India for you know, for well over 10 years, and wasn't able to get to a trade deal. And as I said, and I consistently say this, my job as Canada's trade minister is to make sure that we get the best deal for Canada, and we took an approach. And like I said, we had 9 rounds, and it's important though that I take stock and reflect to make sure that we get the best deal for Canada.
Okay, the goal though was to have something done maybe by the end of this year. So do you still have that set as your target? How long will this pause last? When do you think this will resume?
This is work that is important for me to not only work at the federal level, but to talk to my colleagues at the provinces and territories, and that work will continue.
Okay, but do you think you can get a deal with India by the end of the year and get talks back on track soon, or is this pause indefinite?
We're doing the work that I think Canadians expect us to, and that exporters expect us to, and that is to make sure that we always get the best deal for Canada. But you know, back to my colleague, because I think I can't say it enough. I work as Team Canada, as the trade minister, because the only way we do this work is with my colleagues all across the country in the provinces and the territories. My motto always is that when Canadian entrepreneurs and exporters succeed all across the country, we all succeed, and that can only happen when I'm working with my colleagues.
Okay, International Trade Minister Mary Ng, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, David.